Hello, I am Kjetil Soreide, one of the editors in BJS. I am an HPB surgeon working in Stavanger, Norway. Currently also half of my time at Karolinska University Hospital in Sweden. I'm being challenged with given an sort of an insight of how it is to be an editor in the BJS and how I became an editor. So my introduction to editing began back in Norway when I was a PhD student. I was introduced to the role of editing as a part-time editor in the Journal of the Norwegian Medical Association, which started my editing career, and I found it very challenging and interesting. Then I saw the bursary of how to become an editor assistant with BJS later as I started my surgical training, and I applied and qualified for this position. Luckily enough, back in 2008, 2009, I shared this position with my colleague and friend and co-editor and now in the BJS, Bas Wijnhoven from Rotterdam. And this was a huge experience, a challenging experience, gave me the opportunity to work with the editors, having an editor assistant project that was brought to a presentation at the council meeting, and later even got to publish that piece of work. And surprisingly, I was invited to apply for an open editor position a couple of years later. I luckily qualified and became appointed as an editor in 2010. I also moved from the tie-less position as an editor assistant and had my first tie in 2010 as an editor, learning the British style of presentation and how to act as an editor. Why be an editor? I've asked myself that question, and I guess it boils down to the basic curiosity of things, wanting to know the science behind the surgery, the things we do in the operating room and with the patients. How is it that we develop and evolve that knowledge, and how can we appreciate the things that we learn as a handcraft and art, and how is the science behind it being built? So that's my interest that interested me and brought me into the role of editing in science, in addition to work as a surgeon. It's always also many things that comes with being an editor. It's fun working in a team. This picture was taken at the centenary in 2013. It's a very manual-like panel, not a modern way of looking at the compilation of a group of working people today, but still that was the situation 10 years ago. But it's a great team to work with, a great team to learn from, and it also gives you an opportunity to evolve, innovate, and collaborate with other team members. The way that the journal has worked over the years has changed. A number of evolving concepts like an open publishing journal, visual abstracts, social media, to mention a few. So it's a dynamic process and it's a dynamic team, which I personally feel I've learned a lot from. It also gives you an opportunity to work with mentors, with senior colleagues that have greater experience, a vast more insight into the bits and bobs of publishing, gives you an opportunity to learn from people with more experience and to bring that knowledge into your own practice as an editor, which is a huge opportunity. It also gives opportunity now and then to even present the journal at various meetings, like this situation from the American College of Surgeons, which also again builds your network, and you get to meet similar group of working surgeons and editors across the field of international surgery, which is a huge opportunity as well. But of course, the main bulk of work as an editor is taking the journey from an idea to a final product, by working with the submitted manuscripts, the referee process, the editing, the decision making, and for the few lucky papers that get accepted, work with a final product that eventually gets published. And that's a huge challenge, but also a huge privilege to get to work with the authors. The handling of a manuscript is done in a fairly similar way across the editorial board, but every editor has their own way of working and working in a streamlined fashion with referees and also with the authors. Basically, the referee reports come in and the editors make a decision either alone or together with other editors if there is a borderline decision or some topics that need to be discussed before a final decision is made. In principle, a decision to proceed with revisions, potential acceptance is those papers that we put the most efforts into making sure that they are in a shape and in a form that is readable and understandable and follows the stringent criteria for any type of scientific work that we want to be published in the BJS. The top 3 reasons why papers are being rejected is fairly easy and straightforward. It's basically the methods that disqualifies most of the time a paper from being accepted. That does not mean that a paper necessarily is bad, even if it's being rejected in the BJS. The BJS has a privilege of getting a number of papers submitted from all over the world, and we can only accept those papers that we think and feel meet the highest form of scientific criteria, as well as meet the interest and brings the field forward in surgery. And even if a paper is wonderfully written and has a perfect format for BJS, if it fails to pass the methods review, it will still be rejected. The peer review process can obviously be problematic for both editors and authors. It's not the perfect system, but still it's the best system that we have. It's becoming more and more challenging to find referees. At the same time, we have the privilege of having very many talented young academic surgeons and researchers who are willing to review for the BJS. And in general, we have a very high standard and quality of the referee reports. We also have the privilege of working with statisticians in-house that usually tend to review all randomized controlled trials and any paper with unfamiliar statistical methods or model building type of technology into the research work. In general, editors make a decision either, as said, alone or together with another editor based on the referee report and the statistical report. And for those papers who are offered a revision, we will scrutinize the revisions made by the authors again, eventually having a second round of peer review before we reach a final decision of accept or reject. More lately, we also have had the opportunity to transfer some of the borderlines papers that would in the past have been rejected to our companion journal BJS Open, which works independently from BJS with their own editor-in-chief and editorial team and with their own independent decisions whether they will accept or reject transferred papers. We know that when submitting a paper for which an author or a group has put a lot of effort in polishing and working on the methods and the details of that paper, that the hope is that there will be a straight way forward for getting that paper accepted. We also know that the reality is quite different. Referees can be harsh, editors can be rough or harsh in their decisions, but hopefully mild in their communication of decisions. And it can sometimes be felt a bit unfair that your particular paper has been rejected by the BJS. Again, I would like to remind you that a huge number of papers that are perfectly publishable will be rejected by the BJS, as we have the privilege to pick and choose what we believe is the top part of the submitted papers. We do appreciate that some referees can be really harsh, and we try to look beyond the harshness of any referee report and look at the science and the critique, whether this will be possible to revise or amend or justify any decision we make for any accepted or rejected paper. So if revision has been passed and a decision for acceptance is bound to be given, that's when the real work for the editor starts. Usually it's a lot of work put into the trimming and editing of the text itself, but we also scrutinize the figures, the tables, and the content around the paper to be published in the BJS. We also have an opportunity to work with press releases. We focus on visual abstracts and social media attention. And particularly personally, I like to work with the images and illustrations and look for opportunities to see if there's any way we can improve the presentation of that very paper in the journal. So even though only a small number of papers actually achieve a success in the journal, I do believe that one should not look at all the rejected papers as failures. We do appreciate that a huge number of papers can perfectly be published, but usually in other journals than the BJS. There will always be a risk by submitting to a high standard, high profile journal, but we do appreciate the opportunity to work with anyone's submitted paper or work to the BJS, and take great pride in the referee and editorial process that we have in place to facilitate the best possible evaluation and presentation of any accepted work. So what about the future? What I've learned from the past decade or so working in the BJS is there are bound to be a number of changes in the publishing industry. There will be a number of changes to publishing and presenting per se. And I think one of the challenges is to teach and educate the next generation of surgeons, academic surgeons, to appreciate the way that science is being conducted, presented and published and understood. And I think that will be part of the journal as well, as you will appreciate from the series of presentations in the BJS Academy. So being an editor is a huge privilege. There's a lot of work. If you become an editor, I'll promise you'll never have a day off for the rest of your life, but it's a huge privilege as well. And I hope you'll take the challenge to apply for an editor assistant or a position sometimes in your lifetime career. Thank you very much.